Okay, so Sean, we're going to talk to you a little bit about your project, your final project that you've done for school. And it's called Treatment of the Mentally Ill from Prisons to Hospitals. And
We should trademark that.
Yeah. Tell me a little bit about your project.
My project is basically in the title. It's about the treatment of the mentally ill and how in the 1840s, how they were basically beaten and just tortured because they were different, because they were crazy.
Okay, and they used to house them in the prisons. Is that what happened?
Yeah, but they weren't really.
They just didn't have anywhere else to keep them. Yeah, that's kind of
creepy. Blair Witch Project.
That's kind of gnarly. Yeah. So, what did you find out when you were learning about this subject?
When I first started, I only learned how they were mashed into prisons with children and regular inmates that committed crimes, and they were beaten and treated horribly if they didn't listen.
Mm-hmm. And
and when I started to look into it more for the project, I learned actually a lot more about the punishment and things like that.
Mm-hmm. And how about Dorothea Dix? How does she figure into it?
Well, she comes to a hospital, prison, and she sees how they're being treated, and she starts writing newspaper articles and notes to the government or governor or something like that.
Mm-hmm. And what effect does that have on the laws?
They're put in hospitals, and then they're actually rehabilitated, and they're not treated like animals. They're not beaten senseless with metal sticks or chained to poles for days on end.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay. And what did the hospitals start looking like when they made the switch from prisons to hospitals?
It didn't look like a dungeon. It looked like a haven.
Mm-hmm.
Somewhere safe. It didn't look like a hole in the ground that, in some foreign country.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, looking at the pictures that you've chosen. Yeah, well, obviously that's where they're coming from. But then when we move into the top pictures are from, I think, around the 1900, the turn of the century, and it's looking a lot more hospital, treatment kind of stuff.
There's a hole.
Yeah, we're moving past that. We're going to the progress part now.
That's a black bar.
Well, yeah, they had to protect people's identities. So it's still, it still doesn't look like the happiest place on earth. But what do you think is the main differences that started to happen for these patients?
They were treated with respect. It was they were treated as human beings and not
more of a medical kind of treatment and not
Yeah, they were treated medically and treatments, and they were also put to work. They'd make chairs and they'd help out the community and make chairs and brooms. And coming from a dungeon hole in the middle of Puerto Rico, they'd go to a hospital where they'd be treated with nourishment, and they'd just be helped mentally, and they would get through it. And so some of the paragraphs here actually talks about how people were rehabilitated and let go from the hospital.
Cool. So I see you have a multimedia section right there. I think is that where you're going to put the Chromebook so that you can play this video? And
if I'm at school, yes, but if I'm not, that's where you're going to.
If you're not, then I guess Mr. Class is going to have to press play for you. Hopefully you're not sick anymore by then. So what made you want to study this subject? What made you feel interested in doing your project about it?
These two words.
Which words?
Mentally ill. It just... I like stuff like that. I'm weird.
You're interested in that kind of subject?
Yeah.
Cool. Okay. What was the most interesting thing that you learned in your research?
That they went from this to making chairs and actually leaving the hospital and leading normal lives. That was actually pretty amazing.
Okay, well, thank you for talking with us about your project.